Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch, and this is episode number 92. Today's conversation literally brought me so much joy, and I know this is just an audio podcast, but if it were to be a video podcast, you would have seen the smile on my face that I had for the entire hour that I talked to my guest. Today I'm interviewing 90-year-old Dot Sowerby. Now, Dot is definitely a force to be reckoned with. At 90 years old, not only is she breaking American and world records in track and field, but off the field, she is an ambassador for the Dysphonia International Association. Around the age of 50, she realized that her voice started to sound different. She was diagnosed with a voice condition called spasmodic dysphonia, which is a neurological disorder that impacts the voice. She wrote a book called Speechless No More, which describes her struggle to overcome this condition. She was a true delight to chat with. We talked about her childhood, how she started running at the age 50, how she accumulated around 150 medals since she started racing, her training schedule, and how her family is so supportive. She will be competing in her first half marathon in September in Chicago with her son, daughter, and son-in-law by her side at the starting line. If this isn't inspiration for you to get off the couch and start to move, I don't know what is. We both competed at the USATF Masters Outdoor Track and Field Championships last month in Greensboro, North Carolina, and it was an amazing sight for me to see Dot and her fellow 90-plus competitors run races. One of her motivations is to inspire others to keep exercising no matter what your age or circumstances are. Just get out there and do something, she says. A very insightful and motivational conversation that I know you will enjoy. Here we go. Hi, Dot. Welcome to the show.
Helen, I'm so glad to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. And for my listeners, I am speaking with 90-year-old American record holder and world record holder, track star, and author, Dot Sowerby. Now, Dot and I, about 3 weeks ago, competed in the USATF Masters Outdoor National Track and Field Championships. And Dot competed in the 90 to 94 age group and walked away with 6 gold medals, an American record, and a world record. So that was obviously a very good week for you.
Yes, I sure enjoyed it.
That was awesome. And something else about Dot also, too, is that she is an author. She wrote the book Speechless No More about her struggle to overcome a neurological disorder called spasmodic dysphonia. Now, what this is, it's a neurological disorder that impacts the voice, and that started around the age of 50 for her. So we will get into that also. But first, I always like to ask my guests about where they were born and talk about their childhood. I mean, you're 90 years old. You have seen so much history, and I just want to hear about your life growing up.
Okay. I was born in White Plains, New York in 1933. But when I was 5, my family moved south to Greenville, South Carolina, then Greensboro. So I spent most of my life in Greensboro, which I consider pretty much my home.
Right. So how was your childhood? I mean, did you have any siblings?
I had 2 brothers, and as a young child, I was always kind of a tomboy. I loved to play football with the boys in my neighborhood, and I would run, skip, and jump. I just had a lot of energy. In fact, if they knew back then, they might have considered that I had I've forgotten what you call a movement disorder, where you move all the time. And they probably would have given me medicine, but I'm so glad they didn't, because I've always had a lot of energy.
Awesome. That's great. So where'd you fall in line with your siblings? Were you the oldest, the middle, or
I
the youngest?
was the youngest of 2 brothers. And my mother always wanted me to play with dolls and such, but I wanted to be outside running around.
Well, I think that's all of us. Your generation, even my generation. It was like as soon as you came home from school, you ran out, and then you didn't come back until your parents were yelling at you. It's time to come in to eat.
Yeah.
So I remember that very, very well. That there was no in-house time. They were all like shushing you out the door, and you were out in the backyard playing on the playground, or in your making up games with neighborhood kids, or whatever. So it's a lot has changed since then.
Right. We felt very safe being outside then, and our parents didn't worry about that.
That's true. That's true. So when you went to school, like junior high and high school, did you participate in sports then?
Well, I participated in mainly tennis and basketball. Back then, they didn't have any running events for girls. Even in college, they didn't. In college, we had to play half court or basketball.
Wow.
And like I said, there were no running events.
Very interesting. I know I ran track when I was in high school, and I remember I compete in bodybuilding shows now, and I didn't start that till I was in my mid-50s. But I do remember being in high school and always walking by the weight room and always thinking, oh, I would love to learn how to lift weights. But you didn't dare go in the weight room because that was just for boys only. That was only for the football team or the basketball team. And as a girl back then in the 70s, you never even considered thinking that you weren't even going to test those waters. That was like taboo.
Yeah, the same for me. We didn't have anything like weights for girls.
Right. So did you end up going to college?
I went to Highlands College in Roanoke, Virginia. And there I played tennis and basketball and took all the sports classes.
Uh-huh. And what did you major in?
I majored in sociology.
Okay.
And when I graduated, I worked for the Department of Social Service in Greensboro, North Carolina, and worked in adoptions and foster home care unit.
Wow. Okay. So that must have been very rewarding when you would be able to find a match for your kids and then a good loving home, I'm sure.
Well, the funny part is when I had children, I had two boys with red hair. And neither my husband or I had red hair. But back when we matched up children with parents, you matched up their hair color, their eye color, their skin color. Now that's all gone, and I'm glad.
Right. Yeah. Same here. I'm glad for it too. My brother and his wife adopted two boys, and they look nothing like the parents. That's great. So, did you once you got out of school? I mean, when did you get married?
In 1957, to Dick Sowerby, and we had kind of known each other way back, but he was a year older. And at that time, you didn't associate with people who were in your class.
Oh gosh! Once again, that has really changed. Really changed.
Right.
So, did you start having kids right off, or did you wait a little while?
I worked for 3 years, then I had children, and I stayed home then and participated in all their activities. Once they got in high school and college, I went back and did some social work then too.
Okay. So were your boys also active in sports, growing up?
Yes, and I loved to go to all their basketball and football games, and we all had fun doing that.
That's awesome. And so when did they start getting the running bug or the track and field bug?
Well, they kind of always had that a little bit, but they liked basketball and football, so they would run there.
Well, that's true.
As they got older, they started in some running events, and my daughter in particular has geared into running events, and I even run a race with my granddaughter, and we both won for our age category.
So what made you, I mean, you didn't start running until you were age 50. So, between your 20s and 50s, what did you do for physical activity?
Well, I played a lot of tennis, and I've always been a big walker. I remember my daddy walked a lot, and I would walk with him, and my husband was a big walker. He was 6'3", and when we walked together, he took such long steps, I had to gear up to keep up with him.
That's so funny. My dad also 6'3", and so I had to keep up with him too. And I'm still a fast walker, and people were always kidding me, like, "Where's the fire?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just used to walking fast because I walked fast my whole life, just trying to keep up with my dad." So I totally understand that. So let's talk about your running. So you were around the age of 50, and you decided that. Was it like a light switch moment where you're thinking, I think I want to start running in races now, or what coaxed you into, taking that step outside of your normal routine?
Well, since I'd been walking so much, I started running a little bit. And at that time, women didn't really run much. So I would often go on side streets because I thought people are going to think I'm a funny woman out running. But I saw a race that actually would be coming by my house. It was a 5K. So I signed up for that. Back then, they didn't have any good way to time, They had volunteers who would have a stopwatch.
Right. Yeah, same. I remember that.
So when we came back and they started giving out the awards, they said for the 50-year-olds, they awarded it to a lady. And she said, "Oh no, this lady, Dot, was in front of me." And they said,
Oh, that's
we'll
awesome.
take it back and give it to Dot.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard anything like that. That is so awesome to hear. Wow, that's incredible. That's awesome. That's amazing. So you ran your first race and you placed, and so did you kind of like get the bug and all of a sudden you kind of like this is something that I want to consider, to continue to do?
Well, yes, I did get the book, but as I mentioned, the age category there was 50. So I said, what about next year? I'll be 51. You don't even have my age category. And they said, "Oh, no women ran after that age." And that's something I've been pushing all along, to up the age category, because a lot of the local races here just women 70 and above, and they do the same thing for men. And of course, I live in a retirement community, and there's some runners out here, and we think we could get more if they put higher age categories. So I kind of try to push that.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because when I started bodybuilding, it was about 10 years ago, and there was only the highest age category for bodybuilding back then was 40 years old. And so slowly they added a 45. And then I started writing letters because when I first started competing, I was 56. So I was competing against these women 30 years younger than me, 25, 20 years younger than me. And I was doing actually, pretty decent, but I thought this really isn't fair. And so, started writing letters and wrote letters to some big promoters who had, some of these big shows. And then they slowly added a 50 plus, and then they slowly added a 60 plus. And then 2 years ago, I really was pushing them to add a 60 plus, and they finally did. And so, it's great. So, I'm competing against women, somewhat my own age now, and it makes a huge, huge difference. It doesn't matter if you're running or bodybuilding or any sport, swimming. 5-10 years, that's a lot. And that can be, huge as far as, time is concerned when you're trying to run a race. So that's awesome that you're doing that. And it's awesome that they're listening. And
of course, some of the bigger races like senior games and the masters, they do have it up to age, I think, 104 or 5.
That's incredible.
Most other races don't.
That's really, really amazing. So let's talk about when you started training for your race back in the age of 50. Do you remember how you trained? Because I know when I was in school and even earlier, there was really no effort or focus on diet, and it was just basically just get out there and run. And I remember eating really, really poorly, and just a lot of, especially when I was in high school, a lot of junk food, a lot of, ate only 3 times a day. Eating healthy really wasn't in our vocabulary. And I just really started focusing on, better diet over the last maybe, 10 years or so, maybe 15. But still, back then when you were younger, what was, your course of eating?
Well, I always have been kind of a sensible eater. I particularly like vegetables, and I don't eat a whole lot of meat. But I would just try to eat a healthy diet. And as far as training, I was very careful to keep at training, like that first 5K. I made sure, in fact, I ran the route, but I built up to it, like I would do a mile 1 week, 2 miles, and build up to it. the same way I'm doing for a half marathon that I signed up for, and that will be in Chicago in September. One of my sons lives near the starting line, so he put the bug out last January, and I signed up. My daughter signed up her husband and my son in Chicago. So I will be the oldest woman running in that race. So I hope I can make it.
That's incredible, especially to have that kind of support there with your family. I ran a track in high school and in college, and I ran one half marathon, and I actually did really well. I placed second, but I hated every minute of it. I'm here, and I was a long distance runner, but that was just too long for me. It was just too long. I hated it. And
well, it is long now. Did you listen to any music or anything during that?
Back then, this was in high school. This was back in the 70s. So there was no such thing as iPods or wireless. So you're just running aimlessly for 12 miles and out in the country. And I hated it. So I don't run anymore because I have some lower back issues from all the running I did when I was younger. But I do remember very well running that half marathon, and I never attempted that again.
It is a long way.
Yeah.
Up to training, I've done 11 miles. I gradually am increasing it, and the race will be September 24th.
Well, that's super exciting, and I'm going to have to keep tabs on you now just to see how you do. So let's talk about what I loved is that in your bio, when I was reading some stuff, that you have earned about 150 medals since you started racing at the age 50, but you normally give the medals back. And because it's true. I mean, I have won several first place medals in track and field also too, locally in like state championships and stuff like that. And those say first place, but the regional meets were just like, a little medal with nothing on it. So I really thought, well, you just give it back and, you keep the national ones, but you don't want all that clutter in your house.
Right. Yeah, most of the local ones are just very generic, and I think, well, they can use these again, might as well recycle them.
That is, I mean, I've never heard of that, but I just think that's amazing, and it's something that I maybe should start considering too, because you're right. I have a little table, a little sofa table where I have my trophies and medals and stuff that I can, showcase. But that's really... I've never heard of that, but I just really think that's pretty honorable that you win, but you think pictures and the experience is more important than a generic medal. So I think that's amazing. So how nice that the National Outdoor Masters Track and Field Championships were right in your back door. I mean,
yes, they really were. And we use that track there for a senior game sometimes. And it's one of the best tracks in the Southeast. And at one time, when we had senior games over there, they got some of the college students to volunteer. And this one boy said to me, I'm so glad I came out to volunteer for this because I learned something. I said, what is that? He said, I did not know old people could run. And he was so surprised.
That is so funny. Well, I live in Arizona, but I'm actually a flight attendant for American Airlines, and I'm based in Charlotte. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I work in Charlotte. So when I saw that the games were, the championships were in Greensboro, I thought that's an easy drive. I'm definitely going to do that. So it was just really nice to be so close. I had a great experience there. I thought the meet was very well run, and everything, all the events pretty much. I was lucky; I didn't have to worry about rain, and I competed earlier in the mornings.
Good.
I don't know because it was hot and humid.
Yes, it was.
And did you have to run in any of the hot humidity?
Yes, two of my races were at 12 and 3 o'clock. Now, the National Senior Games, they usually put the older ones early in the morning.
Right.
This was hard doing it.
Yeah. 3 o'clock. Yeah. That's not good. That's not good. Have you competed in the Huntsman Senior Games?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay. Yeah. The Huntsman Senior Games, they're in Utah, St. George, Utah, and they're in October. Phenomenal event. Been beautiful scenery, beautiful weather, and I've competed there 3 years now in a row. I highly recommend you looking into that. It's really, really a fun event, and like I mentioned, it's just so beautiful there. The national park, like Zion National Park, is only 40 minutes away, and very, very, very organized, very well run event, and people from all over the world, come to compete there. So.
Sounds good.
I highly recommend that. So let's talk about your 6 gold medals from the race. So from the track meet, you set an American world record in the 400 meters and then a world record in the mile in the 1500 meters. I mean, obviously, you always want to break a record and you always want to perform well. But, when you're running and you're probably watching the clock, you're thinking, oh, my gosh, I have a chance to, break this record. I mean, how exciting.
Well, it was exciting. And I kind of planned this a little bit. See, I just moved up to the age 90 to 94 category.
Nice, right? The only time we're happy about getting older.
I was the youngest in that age category, so to speak. And we have a school close to where I live, so I would go up there and practice. But it's funny, when I was practicing up there, and of course it was pretty hot, I could hardly do one time around the track without walking a little bit. But I couldn't believe how much better I could do at the meet. Of course, we ran with some younger groups, although we were scored by age group.
Right.
And I had my family there. And I had this plan when I come around this corner and it's the straight of way. I started increasing my speed. And then the crowd starts clapping.
Cheering and clapping.
Well, that spurs me on even more. And I have won a number of races because I had that sprint at the very end. And it kind of surprises people that don't know it's coming.
Right,
so
right.
I'm thrilled I have enough energy at the end to do that.
That's amazing. It's all that adrenaline, especially when you do hear people yelling out your name and clapping for you. It really does get you really excited, and that adrenaline. And I'm sure, even after a mile, on that fourth lap, that everybody's tired, and then you're coming around that last straightaway, and you're probably passing 2 or 3 or 4 more people because they just don't have it in them. So you've got that secret weapon at the end. That's so awesome. So let's talk about your voice condition, because it's something that, I mean, it's kind of funny. I'm really happy to be made aware of this because I definitely detect this in older people from their voices and the way they speak, but had no idea about this actual condition. And so you started noticing a voice change around age 50. So let's talk about what happened.
Well, about that time, I would notice every 3 or 4 sentences, my voice would be choppy and I couldn't get it out. And when it was really bad, I would sound like, hello, how are you? It just catches, and you have no control of it. The brain sends the wrong message to the vocal cord, and it stops the voice, and you just can't control it.
Right.
And of course, I've taken speech therapy a lot. That just helps you manage. It doesn't cure it. Helps you get breathing better and such. And Botox shots are the best treatment at this point because that blocks the wrong message to the vocal cords.
Right. And how often do you have to get treatment?
I get it every 3 months, so that helps.
Well, that's good. I mean, your voice sounds great. It's
Well, I've had Botox now, and we have a wonderful national organization. We have support groups around the country and even in Europe where we try to help people get resources and speech therapy, and we list the doctors in their area who give Botox shots.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about your book, Speechless No More. How long, what made you decide to write this book, and how long did it take you to write it?
Well, when I first got this voice disorder, it took me about 3 years to be diagnosed because I started with my local doctor, and he said, "Oh, you're just probably nervous. I'll give you some tranquilizers."
Oh, no.
And then they go on to, "This must be sinus or something." So when I finally got to a doctor who understood what this was, I started taking speech therapy because at that time there was no Botox. But I started thinking, I wonder if there are people who would like to hear from a patient's point of view what this voice disorder is like. And I just felt led to start writing it. And then our national organization thought it was a good idea, so they helped me some. So it has helped a lot of people, I think, hear from the patient's point of view what this voice disorder is like.
Right. And I'm sure, like you, when people first find themselves with this condition, that they may not know what it is. And just like you said, local doctors might not be well versed in the condition either. Yeah. And they just think that it's just a part of getting old, or, blow it off to, some other reason. So I think it's amazing that you have written this book and you're able to help people. What's the name of the organization if people want to, find out more information about this?
It's called Dysphonia International. Okay. And we have a web page. And if you go onto Google and type in voice disorder, it will probably come up.
Pop right up. Okay. Yeah, I actually see in your bio that there's the website is dysphonia.org, and that's dysphonia.org. So
right, because this disorder is a movement disorder that some people have it in other parts of the body. Some people have it in the neck. Some people have it in the eyes. Some people have it in different parts of the body.
Oh, wow.
Ours is just the voice.
Right. You also said that, and I thought this was very inspiring, that one of the gifts that you have received from your voice situation is that you have learned how to listen so much better to what other people are saying.
Yes, it's frustrating sometimes to be in a conversation with 3 or 4 people, and I kind of want to enter in it, but when my voice is bad, I know I can't. So I've been paying attention more, and I've learned listening to them. I've learned about myself, and I learned to have a lot of empathy for people who have voice problems and other problems. So I'm grateful for this experience in my life because it's helped me grow and learn.
That's amazing, and I'm sure your family also too is so proud of you, not only for your track and field events, but for also being a ambassador for this condition, trying to help other people be more aware of this condition, and that there is, hope for getting back to somewhat of a normal, a voice.
Right, and we are still trying to educate people and get research to find out the cause of the problem. They treat the symptoms, but not the cause. So once you find the cause, you can go further.
Right. I think that's amazing. So you said also too, which I love, and I have so many other women who say this, and I say this also too, but one of your biggest beliefs is that you're never too old to exercise or participate in any kind of adventure or activity. So,
Right.
I mean, I know my listeners can't see me now, but as soon as I said that, Dot just lit up. I mean, she and I are seeing each other on Zoom, but she has the biggest smile on her face. And I know that probably this track and field probably brings you so much joy.
It does. And I think it's so important in life to keep moving and to keep learning, just to keep active. It's just good for us all. It helps me mentally, physically, and spiritually when I exercise and run. It's just a positive effect.
Right. Now, do you lift weights at all?
I do some at our retirement community. We have exercise classes, which includes weights. And so I take some sort of exercise class every day.
That's good. That's really good. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of lifting weights for strong bones because you never know if you take a fall. I've read all these studies where so many people over the age of 60 who fall end up passing away, and it's not from the fall, but it's just from the fact that they have weak bones and they've broken these bones that are in the hospital, and then they contract some pneumonia or some type of other infection, and then they pass away. That's happened to me in my family, as a matter of fact. So, I'm a huge proponent on lifting weights and staying strong and getting out and walking and moving, and it helps not only you physically but mentally, and like you said, also too spiritually also.
Well, I like, of course, get up early and do this, and one of the best thrills is if I'm up early and the moon is still out, and then I see the sun coming up, so I see both of them, and that's thrilling.
I'm an early riser too, especially with my job. So there are times when I'm seeing the moon and the sun at the same time.
It's great.
So, but for me, being a morning person and being productive and getting everything done earlier in the day, it just helps, you not procrastinate, because You put things off, and then now it's time for dinner, so you just, it's better to get out there and get things done. Any other words of advice or recommendation for women over 50 or 60 who are looking to get started in some type of activity?
Well, just get out there and do it. I think, like I said, doing it early in the morning helps so much. And we need to all just keep moving. It doesn't matter what kind of exercise. If you want to swim or play tennis or do anything, just keep moving.
Right. Now, I know pickleball is like the big craze right now, too. So I'm sure your retirement home probably has pickleball courts. I'm sure that's a big thing there, too.
Yes. Any kind of activity that you can do is good for you.
Right. And also, too, I know this has happened with me, but, with you competing in track and field and you're going to all these different events like around the country or whatever locally, I'm sure you've developed some really great friendships with other women also, too.
Yes.
You probably have a great community of friends.
Yes, this past Masters in Greensboro, there was a lady from California who was 92 years old. And I didn't get a chance to talk to her too much, but she somehow got to a church member and asked her for my information. And so we've been in contact.
Oh, that's awesome.
Email. She came from California by herself.
Wow.
She wants to go to the Masters in Sweden.
Oh, the World Championships, huh?
Yes. So she's trying to entice me into that, which is very tempting.
Yes. Yeah. I had some friends who competed in the World Championships. I think it was in Hungary this past year or somewhere. It was, over in Europe also too. But that's something that you should consider. You could, win more golds and break more world records.
And I love to travel. So for my 90th birthday, my family and I went on a 2 weeks cruise to Greece, all up and down the coast. And I just love that.
Isn't Greece just beautiful? Yes.
Oh, it is. The only trouble, I ate too much and didn't train much.
That's okay. Yeah. I love cruising also too. So, and I actually did a cruise through Greece, and that's probably the best way to see all the islands. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Dot, we've almost been talking almost an hour. And so is there any final things that you would like to say before we close this interview? You're extremely inspirational and very motivational too. So many of the other guests that I have interviewed who were in their 70s and 80s, they never started, they were not athletes when they were young, and they started, training and getting into things when they were in their 60s and 50s. And so I just think it's amazing that, the second chapter of our lives, really is the best chapter. And you are living proof of that.
Well, thanks. If I can motivate or inspire anyone to get out and exercise or compete, I'm glad. A couple of years ago, I went to a conference and they seated me next to a lady who was 65 and had been a runner. And so she didn't know I was a runner, but when she heard my age and the fact that I still ran, she couldn't believe it. At the end of the conference, she came back to me and said, because of you, I'm taking up running again. And that really made me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I mean, I was a track and field athlete when I was in school, and then I didn't start competing again. And actually, Flo Myler was the one who actually kind of got me inspired because I interviewed her, and I've always been interested in pole vaulting. So after I interviewed her, I started pole vaulting, and then I thought, well, I need to do something else besides pole vaulting. So I picked up javelin and discus now too. So
Right.
I just, kind of the same thing, 40, 45 years later, you're back at it. And I think a lot of women our age are like the same, they're doing the same. They're just kind of getting back into it after all these years. So I think it's amazing. Now, are you on Facebook? Are you on anything like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do Facebook, and I do a lot of computer work because our voice organization does most of their business online, and we do have conferences once a year, and I go to medical conferences, like I'm going to the speech conference in November in Boston, where all probably 15,000 speech people come, and we have a booth there. And we help educate people who don't know about spasmodic dysphonia.
That's amazing. So people can find you on Facebook if they want to reach out to you.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure to meet you, and I'm so inspired by you, and I'm sure that I'll be participating in other senior games and other, track and field championships. And the next time I do, I will definitely come up to you and we can meet in person.
Right. It was a pleasure talking with you, Helen. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And I will definitely let you know when this podcast comes out. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'm going to keep an eye on you. I hope you, I'll start following you on Facebook, and I'll keep an eye on you about the race in September. I can't wait to see how you do.
Okay. Thanks, Helen.
All right. Take care and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. See you.
Mm-hmm.
I sure hope you enjoyed this interview with Dot. Such a remarkable woman. So wise, so motivational, and so inspirational. So many of the masters athletes that I have interviewed in the past never started their athletic journey until the age of 50 or even 60. And it's amazing to see women like Dot thrive in the second chapter of her life, because truly, in my opinion, the first chapter of our lives are the training wheel years. I know we can all relate. Having that third wheel keeps us safe and in our comfort zone as we cruise through life. We see those bikes out there with just two wheels, but we're too afraid to get on that bike. There are so many of us that hit that age of 50, 60, and even 70 and beyond, and we're still riding that three-wheeler. That's why we become stagnant, stale, and in a rut in our daily routines. The second chapter of our lives should be the best chapter of our lives. It's time to take that third wheel off. It's time to step out of our comfort zones. It's time to start something new. It's time to start taking care of ourselves, living our best lives. Movement is the key to longevity, and Dot is a prime example for that. So what are you waiting for? Now, if you'd like to reach out to Dot, you can find her on Facebook at Dot Baxter Sowerby, and that's Sowerby. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me at www.ageisirrelevant.com or helen@ageisirrelevant.com. And until next time, don't ever forget, age truly is irrelevant. Bye-bye.